Record. All right, today we have Nathan Weatherly, the Director of Athletics for Border Youth in El Paso, Texas, and we have Asst, the Assistant Sports Information Director at Bethel University. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
We'll
Thank you.
start with Awesome. We'll start with Nathan. Nathan, you'll give us a brief bio, and then we'll have Austin give us his brief bio as well.
Sure. So I'm from El Paso, Texas. I was born and raised here. I got the opportunity to play collegiate baseball at a small Division II called Northwestern Oklahoma State. From there, I graduated with my Bachelor's of Science with a major in ag, minor in business. And I was able to stay on staff for 2 more years as the general or the graduate assistant. And then after that, I was another 2 years as the recruiting coordinator, director of operations for Northwestern Oklahoma State. In the time I got my GA, I got my master's in sports administration.
And you are now.
Yes. So after that, I decided to move back to El Paso, and I am the director of athletics for a nonprofit called El Paso Border Youth Athletics, and we do sports for underprivileged kids. But the whole point of it is for education throughout 3-year-olds from pre-K all the way up to high school kids trying to get to college. So,
Austin.
And I am from a small town in Kentucky called Graham, Kentucky. So I originally I got a scholarship for cross country and track, and I went to a small NAI school in Columbia, Kentucky, Lindsey Wilson. A lot of people know it for the soccer team. So I went there, and then I ended up transferring from there to Bethel University, where I'm currently still at. And so how it all became to be basically is I ran undergrad cross country track. I wanted to get my master's. I took a year off school to kind of decide what I really wanted to do in my life. And then I decided that getting a master's at a younger age was the right move for me. Go ahead and get it over with. And so, it would open up more opportunities for me. So I decided to do that. They offered me a GA position here under the athletic director. So I started doing that. I got involved and started doing tickets, and implemented a ticketing program and did a lot of other things they asked me to do that the job entails. I'm sure we can go on that later. But anyways, after they liked my performance and they liked my work ethic, they actually offered me a job as the assistant sports information director, where, that's what I'm currently doing. And that's just kind of how everything unfolded.
With your degree from Bethel, your undergraduate degree was in sports management.
It actually was in business administration. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. And then my master's degree was actually in education.
Oh, okay. So did not have the only sports background you had was the fact that you were a collegiate athlete then.
That is
So
correct.
when you took that year off and decided what it is you wanted to do, what did you do? What did you do? Did you stay in McKenzie or what?
Well, that is a wild ride in itself. I worked at summer camp that actually had a lot of sports involved, and I worked as a lakefront director, and I managed all the pools. And I worked there before helping out with sports, but it just had a little bit of everything. I actually took a trip over the pond, so I went to London, England for a little bit. I was in New York City for a little bit, so I kind of just honestly just traveled the world, so to speak, and just tried to figure out what I really wanted to do. And then for me personally, reality hit and was like, Austin, you probably need to go back to school, get a master's degree if you really want to do what you want to do. Because I did want to coach cross country and track and for college. And for most universities and for most colleges, you need a master's degree in order to be qualified. And so that's kind of where that came into play. And then it ended up when I was getting my master's, they offered me the job while I was a graduate assistant. And then I ended up getting into sports information field, and I ended up enjoying it. So that's currently what I'm doing.
Awesome. And then Nathan, you'd mentioned that your undergraduate degree was in ag.
yeah.
How did you get from ag to sports management?
So the whole reason I didn't grow up in a ag family, the whole reason I decided to take the ag degree um was because it was something different. I wanted to learn something different. Um and I wanted to maybe do something in like an ag credit, work for some sort of ag bank, and just I kept getting opportunities, and it kind of kept pulling me back towards sports. So I never got that opportunity, but definitely learned a lot of valuable stuff, valuable educational material doing ag at the school.
So then, do you think that your position, both of you, your positions, your not only your academic work, but maybe your internships, your GA assistant program, did that prepare you what it is you're doing right now, or was it the aggregate of what you've done?
So for me,
That-
I think it's the common thing that Austin and I both have is that we were both GAs at the universities, and I think being a GA, especially at the university I was at, the head baseball coach and the athletic staff kind of gave me the opportunity to kind of put a lot of hats on and do a lot of different things and kind of learn what I like and what I don't like. And just kind of the ins and outs of collegiate athletics. Obviously, the bigger the school you get, the more staff you have, the more problems you run into. But I think that just being a GA and getting your foot in the door, getting to meet people, getting to do hands-on things was the most beneficial part. The the other stuff like the my doing my you know bachelor's of science, just going 4 years through school, you kind of grow up as a person, get to meet new people, learn new things, figure out how to do time management, how to go about life by yourself. So I think the first 4 years of college is kind of figuring out how to become yourself and how to go about yourself every day. And then after that was kind of like figuring out how to proceed in your career. That was how I felt.
So before Austin jumps in on that, Austin, if you could, we have some students in the class who are not sports management majors. And so they don't have really a lot of experience with sports. And so they don't know what a GA is. So if you could explain that before you answer the question.
Okay. So GA is a graduate assistant, and you can do graduate assistantship for many different things. I mean, let's say a baseball team has one, like I know Nathan said he was a part of, or let's say that certain schools have different ones. I mean, it's just really according to what they have available. For me personally, it was the athletic department, so I reported straight to the athletic director. Some, like my track team, they were trying to get a GA and then our department actually right now has a GA. So I had to work with the GA who was in my position. It was kind of full circle moment doing what I did. So it was very, humbling, and they did a great job. And for those of you interested, I will actually be leaving. I'll be going to a different university, but Bethel University has a few GA spots open for anybody that may be interested in that. I would try to get into contact with someone here, but yeah. So I started off in the GA position, and it was like I said, it was a full circle moment for me because I would do things like they wanted to start ticketing because it was during COVID. So I actually did a lot of things that maybe normally you wouldn't do in that position because COVID, everybody switched things up and you did
Mhm.
things differently, and that's part of being a part of the real world and having a job is like sometimes you have to adapt, and that's a skill you got to have. And so anyways, so I started doing like implemented ticketing because we didn't want to deal with cash since it was COVID. And then, just anything else that the athletic director asked me to do, if it was calculating the revenue, looking just seeing where we were in the budget, just dotting in different things. And then like I said, after that, it just catapulted me into being the assistant sports information director. And it was so I was like one of those people who were, I was a person who was like the front of the door when people came in, greeted them when I was a GA, and just made sure all of that went right. And then I ended up becoming one of the people that basically got all of that set up. And so, like I said, it was a full circle moment, and it was just really humbling, and it really lets you see how much goes into athletics. And I think my undergrad degree for business administration, slash management helped me because I do have students on scholarships. So it helped me manage personnel and be able to, just do the right things that, people in charge should do, take care of their people who work under them. And so I think my undergraduate degree definitely helped. And then the education part of the master's, um, it helps in some areas. I mean, obviously, you have laws, regulations when you're doing a master's, and you know what stuff like that you need to follow. And that also goes into, just because I'm not technically in the education department doesn't mean those laws don't apply to me. So both my undergrad degrees, I feel like, definitely helped me, even though they weren't specifically in the sports field.
So you mentioned ticketing. Was your system the Arctic's ticketing system, or did you use something else? I ask because at UTEP, I was a development officer, but then our department was so small that I was the event planning director, I was ticketing, I was development, I was stadium sales, there were so many facets that once you show that you're good at one thing, then they put something else on your plate, then they add something else. And so because of COVID, we use the Arctic's ticketing system. What did you use?
We actually use a system called hometown ticketing.
Okay.
And just to bounce off what you said, one of the things that people will realize when they go into the real world is if you're good at your job, you will have to wear a lot of hats. So
yeah, that is true. That is true. Nathan, are you doing what you initially thought you would be doing? Once you got your graduate degree, did you think this would be where you are, or did you think you'd be doing something different?
Yeah, I definitely think that I'd probably be doing something different, but I'm really happy to where I am. I think in my personal beliefs, I think that things happen for a reason, and you kind of go down the right road, even if you don't think it is. Um, So I don't think this is what I thought I would be doing, but it definitely is what I need to be doing right now. So for the students, I would definitely say keep an open mind, even if it's something you don't want to do. Maybe you'll meet somebody that in that field, or you'll talk to some person that you would meet that will set you up in life down the road. You just never know.
And so for those students who don't know, because they're not familiar with El Paso, they don't know about our soccer team, our baseball team, our hockey team. There are multiple avenues for you if you want to stay in El Paso. There is an opportunity for you to advance somehow in your career in sports management. Would you say that's a true statement?
Yeah, there's tons of sports in El Paso. Some, one step away from the big leagues, a couple that are right after college, before college. There's two major universities within 50 miles of each other here. So definitely opportunity to grow. I actually worked with Major League Baseball, working with one of their new systems here in El Paso. So there's definitely ways to connect and continue your education even when you're a professional, for sure.
And most people aren't aware. They think of El Paso as being a dusty one-horse town, not realizing that we have about 1 million people on any given day and swells to 2 million on the weekend. So
Yeah,
they don't realize.
we have to have a lot of things because we're about 4 to 8 hours from any other big city. So
So yeah, as a matter of fact, Tucson is what, 4 hours, Phoenix is 6, Albuquerque's 4.
yeah.
So Austin is 8 or 9, depending on the way you drive. So yeah, we have to have it all out there. And what about you, Austin? Are you doing what you thought you'd be doing, or did things change for you?
I always knew for me, well, I take it back. Starting off college, I was going to be a nursing major, and then when I transferred colleges, I decided to, go down a different path. But once I got into college, let's say my second or third year in college, I knew I wanted to be in the sports field, whether it was coaching or administrative side or anything like that. You know, when you're going through college, and it's okay not to know. Some people know when they go right into college. Some people will figure it out when they're in college. Some people will work in the profession for 5 to 10 years after college and just, well, that's not what they want to do. So everybody's normal is different. But for me personally, when I got to like my sophomore, junior year, I just knew like I wanted to be in the sports field and coach or do something in athletics in general.
And so now that you'll be moving schools and going to Texas A&M International in Laredo, will your job be the same as thing that you're doing for Bethel? Will it be different?
Very similar. The change will be my title. I'll be the sports information director. Here I'm the assistant. So there will be some things that will change. You know, I'll be going to conferences. I'll be doing like certain tasks that I wasn't asked to do as assistant. But
Mhm.
you know, as far as setting up events, doing stats, recording, streaming, just like all of that stuff that entails like certain game day protocols, I'll be doing basically the same thing, just at a different university, and it's Division II, whereas this school I'm at right now is NAI. So there will be some changes there just because there's different rules and regulations, and the conference is going to be different, and each conference has their own rules in
Mhm.
collegiate athletics. So yeah, there will be some different obstacles, but like I mentioned earlier, the best thing is being able to be flexible and being able to adapt.
So, Nathan, what is it that you do on a daily basis? What do you do as the director of athletics for Border Youth? What do you do?
So, like I said, we have kids all the way from like kindergarten all the way to high school. Um, so it's kind of at this role, it's kind of different than being an athletic director at a university, but kind of similar. So I'll put together games, programs, schedules, pretty much anything that has to do with athletics, but also it's more than that. Have to deal with budgeting, um, payroll, different things like that. So on the day to day, it would be kind of going through emails, setting up practices, games, and then also education, because that's the main point of our organization is making sure kids are going to school, getting educated, and for the high schoolers to have the resources to make the jump to college. So it's kind of all over the place, but trying to each day fine tune what I need to focus on and kind of there's a lot of moving parts and trying to get them all together and stack them together and make them work together. So I would say talking a lot of it is phone calls, emails. You have to be very personable, be able to talk to people who get upset, people that you don't know. A lot of it is communication based.
Okay. And then as well, Austin, what about you?
For me personally, you know, it's just like he said, you fine tune what you need to do daily. I mean, in the world of athletics and especially in the world of technology, and I know we'll talk about social media and things
Mhm.
later, but it's one of those things where things are going to come up. Things just happen, and sometimes you can plan all you want to for something to happen, and it just will go wrong, and that's just part of life, and that's just part of job. You hope, like for example, I can on the job, you can hope that the internet won't go out while you have a stream going, or while you're broadcasting a game, or let's say your mixer board where your announcers are sitting there talking. Yes, I'm speaking from experience.
Mm.
Where your broadcasters won't like it just won't pick up, or the radio station, which is totally out of your control, has an issue there, and it's not broadcasting back to you. Like there's just going to be things that you can't control. So every day when you get in the office, you work on the things you can control. Like he mentioned, scheduling. You make sure the web stuff on the website is correct. When we manage our website, we make sure that we implement all the schedules. We put on the website daily signings, people who sign. We got to make sure the stats are correct, the results. One thing you can't control is the stats. I mean, but if there is one and something wrong, let's say somebody thinks they have an error, and or somebody thinks it was an error, the two coaches discuss it and then they let you know what the final verdict is and you go fix it in the system. Certain things you can look at day to day. But like I said, certain things are just out of your control. More game day stuff, you just hope it goes well. You can prepare like the program and the pamphlets he's talking about. You can do those things. And it's a lot of double checking your work, making sure that you did it right because, any misprint or anything that's not, spelled right, I won't say it's an end of the world reflection on you, but it definitely doesn't
Reflects
look good.
poorly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know, having been in collegiate athletics, that it's not a 9 to 5 job. It's not you clock in at 8:30 and you're done by 5. So I know your job is not necessarily a 9 to 5 job. Nathan, is your job more 9 to 5, or do you do weekends too and evenings? What's your job like in that
So
respect?
it is a little different from collegiate athletics and professional. I being on both sides that I've done both. When I was at the university, um, I was the recruiting coordinator, so I was always either on the phone or on the road recruiting or such practices and all that good stuff. Being athletic director, I can kind of set it up and have people that I trust to run the things. But ultimately, it's a little more relaxed, but it's still kind of um, not 9 to 5, especially because you have to make relationships, especially for donors and such. You have to go out of your way to go to to lunches, dinners, things like that. So I would say it's kind of 50-50. Sometimes one week it might be just pretty nice and easy 9 to 5. Another week will be a weekend where you have to work all Saturday. It's the name of the game.
Awesome. So I know that we do have one student on. Stetson, do you have any questions for one of our guests? If you do,
Yes.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I have a question for Austin. Would you say studying a different university's environment has prepared you for your new job at D2, or does the environment not change?
Good question. Because each university does have, and it really depends because there's different statting systems and different programs. So with the one that I use here, there's different things like the streaming and the research that I've done here has prepared me, but I do work on the side for this scoring company called Scorekeepers, which uses all different types of scoring systems. So yes, somewhat here at this university, but more so at my side job, which is Scorekeepers, which helps me do stats and stuff through them. And I go to like University of Memphis, Austin P University, and just different universities with it. Blue Mountain, and every one of them has a different statting system. So thankfully that doing those games at those different places has allowed me to gain experience because the website and the statting system at the new university I'll be going to is completely different than the one here.
I don't suppose that you never really know what it is that you're doing in your job. It's going to prepare you for the next step. You think, why am I having to count the light bulbs? Why am I having to do this event? Why am I having to? And then the next job you apply for, you're like, oh, I've done that. I've done that too. And your experience grows with each new thing that you take on. I do have a question regarding social media. Thank you for reminding me. Has social media played a role in either one of your current positions? Nathan?
Yeah, so social media, it's really crucial to the brand, I guess you could say, is to make sure that not only the people in your area, but people worldwide can see. Because personally, I have family that's not in the United States, and it's just that easy for them to log on to Facebook and see what's going on. So, you can use any social media, that's X, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, anything that is on the website is a great tool to represent yourself and the brand. And if that means recruiting, if that means donors, if that means anything, I think it's really important to make sure it's cut clean, and that you're out there typing punctually correct sentences, making sure everything is correct before you put it out there, and that that there wouldn't be any problems. But I think social media is a big part of the current sports or anybody's personal life, and I think it's just going to get bigger and bigger as the years go on.
Austin, for you?
So, especially in my position, social media is pretty much everything. I mean, our streams go on social media, all of our signings, all of our stories, all of our results, all of our stats, everything goes on the website, and then it'll be transferred on X or Facebook. Let's say like today, this goes back to your question or your statement about not being 9 to 5. Like today was my day off, and I was still doing work this morning. So certain departments, certain places, certain job careers, like it may say 40 hours a week, or it may be salary, but when I interviewed for this most recent job, somebody there said something to me that really hit home. You either love it or you learn to love it. And it's just like everybody says about your job career, you want to do something that you love, because if it's something that you love, the hours you put in isn't really going to matter. But anyways, back to the social media part of it, it's everything. I mean, and here's the thing too, not just social media at your job, but social media that you put personally. So things that you put up personally, nowadays, your employer, they're going to probably go, creep your Facebook or creep something. They want to make sure that they're hiring the right person. So social media not only reflects, not only goes as far as your job, it's going before you even get the job, and then even more when you do get the job. But like Nathan said, it's only going to continue to expand. And I know for my position, personally, it's everything. Like I deal with it every single day, and it's not going away. And we even do more and more every year to try to be on social media. Like this year, last year, I figured out, or it was the year I started, I figured out we didn't have Instagram. So I started making Instagram for our school and put photos up. Then we didn't have a TikTok, so we started doing TikTok. I did find out that when I get to Texas, I'm not allowed to have TikTok. So that was that was very interesting. So which is fine. But that's another thing, going back to every place is different. So that's something different. But yeah, it's just amazing. It's amazing how much that you need to know social media. And if you know social media, you're already steps ahead of other people, because you'll be surprised how many people really don't know the avenues and ins and outs of social media, and how much, let's just say, for example, how much revenue you could generate just by being able to put your platform or your school or whatever out there. I mean, it's really a great tool if you know how to use it.
Excellent. Excellent. So we have a couple of minutes left. Stefan, did you have another question for either of our guests?
No, ma'am, I'm okay. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. All right. So anything else, either one of you, if you were having the opportunity, like you do, to talk to you in college, if looking back at you, what would you tell yourself about your career path, about jobs, about a job in sports management? What would you tell yourself?
I think
Or what would you tell your brother?
the biggest thing for me would be two things. Is one, be comfortable in your own skin. Don't be somebody who you're not. You got to be who you are. You can't change who you are. And the second thing is to get out there, be social, even if you aren't. Try your best, and just kind of put your name out there and make a brand for yourself. And there's lots of ways to put what you're doing out there. If that means social media, like a LinkedIn is a great way to put your resume and all that stuff together and start. You never know who you're going to run into. One of my buddies, he was at Texas A&M International. He was at a convention with us a while back ago, ran into a guy with the Minnesota Twins, and now he's with the Twins organization. So you just never know who you're going to run into, and that's my advice.
Okay. Austin?
Ironically, I was going to ask you, Nathan, what happened to your friend at Texas A&M, but I know now. So, well, ironically, also, me and Stetson had a similar conversation about this particular topic the other day, and he probably doesn't want to hear it again, but I'm going to say it anyways. One of the biggest things I learned, I would say I was blessed personally by God that things aligned for me the way they did. Any advice that I would give to undergrad students, especially, is get those internships, get those doors opened. Try your best to line things up for when you graduate. If you're going to go get your master's, go get your master's. If you know you want to work straight out of undergrad, have it lined up by the time you graduate, because it's not easy. I know people say there's jobs everywhere, but it's not easy to get these jobs as people claim, because you got to have the years of experience, or you got to have some sort of experience to be able to get these jobs. And that's what I ran into when I first graduated. Like I said, all the jobs I wanted, they wanted somebody with a master's degree. So I would say best advice is make sure you have things lined up, because if you don't, you're going to graduate and things are going to be tough, because, that's the real world, and you're going to have, bills to pay, so to speak, and all these things you need to do. And the biggest thing for anybody is just make sure you make those connections while you can. If there's like a department or somebody that goes to events that, if it is sports management, or whatever it may be, whatever field you choose to be in, just find somebody, make those connections, get those internships and those jobs. Even if it's a job like that's just a resume booster and you got to tough it out, because experience and is really important, and also credentials, like getting a master's, like those things. I wish I would have, like I said, I was blessed by God to line up like the way I did, but I was not very great at when I was graduating. I knew I wanted to work where I worked all summer, the last few summers, but realistically, it worked out. But I should have had something lined up for when I graduated. And I preach that to everybody. I encourage all my student assistants to go ahead and get their masters, just because it's easier to get it while you're younger, because when life hits you when you're older and you may have a family or something like that, it's a lot harder to go back to school. It's not impossible, but it's harder. So I would just encourage everybody to have their ducks in a row. As easy as that sounds, I know it's not, but the real world is scary at times, and I don't think people preach enough like what they're really getting into whenever they graduate.
Right, so I'm going to share my screen with if I can. Sometimes it lets me, sometimes it doesn't. There we go. So I'm sharing this with the students. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Stetson, can you see that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you may want to screenshot that, bud, because that's the only place that it's going. So I'm going to run out of time in just about 4 minutes, but I did want to speak to something that you said. So many of my students coming out of college think they're going to have a job immediately. They think they're going to be an AD. They think they're going to be, making the big bucks, 100K a year. And that's not the way things work out, especially not today. When I graduated, so many moons ago, from college, jobs were plentiful, and I was a teacher. And I had been a teacher almost my entire career. I did not get my master's until I was 40, and didn't get my PhD until right after that. But have continued to teach. And when I retired from teaching full time, I went into collegiate athletics, realizing, whoa, I enjoy it, but I didn't love it. I loved teaching. So I went back to teaching, and teaching at the collegiate level primarily, and have done that ever since. But, I figured out that even though I thought collegiate athletics is where I wanted to be, and I thought that I wanted to coach at the collegiate level, once I got there, I realized, okay, that wasn't what God intended me to do. God intended me to be an educator. So, people come to these life decisions and life kind of epiphanies at different times. You don't have to pursue your master's right away, though it's smart. For me as an educator, I didn't have to. But when I knew that I wanted to be a collegiate educator, I knew that I had to have not only a master's degree, but most likely a PhD, which is why I pursued that. So hopefully our students have learned something today. I certainly appreciate you guys coming on and sharing your experience with our students, letting them know what it is they need to do. Thank you for pushing on the point of internships and your graduate assistant programs and those kinds of things, because some of them are not even aware that those opportunities are available. So I'm really thankful to both of you today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks for
you.
having us.
Thanks so much, guys. So much.
Right.
Talk to you later.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.